midweek analysis with Thanksgiving coming up tomorrow, Colorado's trip to Salt Lake City on Saturday. Brian, hope you and your family are well. What does it feel like for you covering this team going into this final week? It feels kind of different now that bowl eligibility is officially out of grasp.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it feels like a lot of other years, right? And where you just kind of know that finale is this week, and it probably a little more deflating, for the fan base, obviously, and maybe for us because I think there was a point in this season not too long ago that we thought this is a bowl team and probably should be a bowl team, and I still feel like this should be a bowl team because there's at least two games I can think of that I feel they should have won. Stanford and Arizona, I feel like they should have won those games. That'd be your 6 wins. So to me, it's disappointing that this is the last game of the season for them, but I think that there's an opportunity here for them to go out and you can finish strong. You don't have to win this football game, but you can finish strong and try to erase a little bit of that taste of Pullman last week.
Back in 2015, that group used a lot of close losses as fuel, and they self-policed themselves in the offseason. They became a real, true team. And obviously they go on to win the Pac-12 South title, win 10 games. The coming months are very critical for this football program. At this point, I don't really know how much the results out at Rice-Eccles Stadium on Saturday matters. Sure, it would be nice to be 5-7 as opposed to 4-8, and maybe that would help land an extra recruit. I don't know. But I think what's more important is gaining continuity. We heard Arden Walker talk to us today about it took us a while to kind of figure stuff out, and I think the more you have to redo that in 2024, the harder it's going to make to really catapult this into being a contender in the Big 12.
Yeah, and Deion Sanders was asked about that. I asked a little bit about the continuity before the season, and it was always brushed aside of like, hey, look, I mean, I remember his comment at one point. He said, like, sometimes people get engaged after only a few dates. If you can commit to a life partner, these guys can get to know each other quickly. Well, here we are late in the season, and you still have guys like Arden Walker saying, yeah, we're just now coming together. And even Deion's admitted that there's some of that. And so I think that maybe they miscalculated that a little bit about how the continuity was going to affect this team. I think it has, and I agree with you. They've got to fill some holes, and every team does every year. But I think that if the majority of the pieces are back, that's going to be huge for this team. You have to have guys that develop, and guys like an Arden Walker that got better this year than he was at Missouri, and he's got an opportunity to get even better. We heard Jordan Dominic just last week say Arden Walker's that guy, I think, in my room that can take the baton. And so a guy like Arden Walker has so much potential to get better next year, and I think there's a lot of guys on this football team like that. I don't think I saw a lot of this after the game last week that they need to blow this thing up. That's one game. You look at the whole body of this season, and this team is okay. I think this program is okay, and you want that continuity. Plug some holes with some recruits. I think the importance of this week is you might be able to get a better recruit. If you can get a better recruit in one or two spots because you play well at Rice-Eccles, then that helps.
It was certainly a very, very, very disappointing performance out in Pullman. Yeah. That was really the first time, because Oregon is such a good football team. When you get blown out going to Autzen Stadium, you're not super shocked, even though Colorado's playing better football at that time. You just have to have covered some games in Pullman to realize that's just not a friendly place to this program. Right. And so I wouldn't overreact to that. To your point, I think maybe they did underestimate how difficult it is to bring together 70-plus players, a whole new coaching staff, get them to absorb a playbook, and go out there and play fast and not be thinking too much. But at the same time, if you want to go all the way back to last winter, they had to do what they did because I spent some time the other day Googling where those guys that transferred out of Colorado's program, what they've done at their new teams. And frankly, I wanted a lot of them to have success because those are guys that we covered. I covered a lot of them when they were high school recruits, and it was kind of sad to see how little impact those guys have had in other programs. Right. Naeem Rodman out at Wazoo was one of the guys that has had one of the bigger roles, and even that has been as kind of a part-time starter. So they had to do what they had to do, but now you don't have to do that again. And I asked Coach Prime if they start to have conversations with the guys about their future here at Colorado. He said that's something you wait till after the season, but I sure hope those conversations are happening with the position coaches with those guys, because in today's day and age, you can't wait till the end of the season, I don't think, to start gauging what guys are thinking.
Yeah, I agree with you, and when I made my comment, I fully agree with you. They had to do what they had to do. Yeah. I just think that they underestimated that piece of it, and that was going to be a factor this year. You're right. I don't think they have to do it, and I hope that those conversations are happening with the position coaches. And, Levonta Bentley was asked a question this week about how much time do you get with Coach Prime? And he says, not a lot. He goes, I don't want to impose on his time. And, I think that's normal that the guys aren't with the head coach a lot. But then he also mentioned that he's with Coach Hart a lot. That's who he spends his time with. And so I would imagine those conversations are happening. I think that coaches, like a Coach Hart, probably knows the mindset of what his linebackers are thinking right now. I'd imagine that, Flea, knows that what Savion Wilkerson's thinking, and, what Anthony Hankerson's thinking, or at least has an idea of that. And so I would imagine those guys have a good idea. And the conversations are going to happen right away. Just to kind of confirm those things. But I would be shocked if the position coaches aren't really aware of what's going on.
This was a 4-2 football team on the verge of its 5th win when a raccoon ran out onto Folsom Field in that Stanford game, the second half of that game. They haven't won a game since then, Brian. I don't know. Are you into superstitions? And I don't know. How do you break a raccoon curse if there is indeed one at Folsom Field?
I'm not really into superstitions, but I've never heard of a raccoon curse, but we're going to have to look that up. And, maybe it is. Maybe this is, I think you mentioned it. Maybe this is the Buffs' Billy Goat from the Cubs years. But, we'll see if it carries over to next year. But, raccoons like trash. And that second half against Stanford was trash. And so, maybe that's why he was there, because of the trash. I'm just saying. But, they got to – I'm not saying the whole season's been trash, but that second half was. Yeah. And they got to break that curse somehow.
It was hiding out in some vent and it smelled some trash. It says, I'm going to come out. Oh, wait, there's a football game, and it spazzed out. And credit to Uncle Neely. He was the one that got that video. And I actually it took me a while to remember to ask him, but I was like, did you doctor that? Was there really a raccoon down on the field? How did it get there? Where did it go? I have so many questions. And now, is this raccoon haunting the Buffaloes? There's a lot to chew on there. But all joking aside, Thanksgiving is coming up. And I love the fact that this game is played on Saturday now. Yeah. There were many Thanksgivings. I traveled out to Salt Lake on Thanksgiving Day and didn't get to spend that time with family. So grateful for that, at least. And what's your go-to Thanksgiving dish? What's your favorite?
Yeah, I will say, actually, my first year covering the bus program, they were still in the Big 12. And I remember Thanksgiving, eating dinner with the family early, and then about 5 o'clock taking off and driving to Lincoln for that last game against Nebraska. But the go-to, I'm traditional. I like turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, and green bean casserole's got to be there. Okay. You got to have olives. I'm a big olive guy, and so but I like everything covered in gravy. Okay. So I like traditional.
Well, I feel like Thanksgiving dinner is a good litmus test for how good of a cook you are, because there are so many dishes that are served at a traditional Thanksgiving that can have bland taste or be dry. But if you can make good stuffing, good turkey, I'm fortunate. My mother was a great cook. My wife's a great cook. I'm a pretty good cook myself. So we're fortunate there. But I feel like it kind of exposes you as a cook if you can't put together a good feast.
Yeah, I agree with you. And my wife does a great job, and I am required to help, and so I feel like I do a decent job. So, but she's the better cook than I am. But I've been fortunate as well, and we're not going to go hungry this week, that's for sure. But the bad part about the game being in Salt Lake is they don't get the leftovers on Friday because leaving Friday morning. So I'm hoping there's still leftovers when I get back, Sunday evening, because there's nothing better than Thanksgiving leftovers.
We might see you in DIA on Friday with just a bag of turkey.
That's very possible.
All right, we're going to be back to preview Colorado's 2023 season finale at Utah next.